A person may say to another, "Weed with me, and I will weed with you," or "Hoe with me, and I will hoe with you." But he may not say to him,
Mhm.
"Weed with me, and I will hoe with you," or "Hoe with me, and I will weed with you." All the days of the dry season are alike, and all the days of the rainy season are alike. However, he may not say to him, "Plow with me during the dry season, I will plow with you during the rainy season." Rabbi Gamil says there is an interest paid in advance, and there is an interest paid afterwards. How? If he decided to borrow from him, and he said to him, and said, "I am doing this in order that you lend me," this is interest paid in advance. If he borrowed from him and returned his money to him and said to him, "This is because of your money that was lying idle with me," this is interest paid afterwards. Reb Shimon says there is interest with words, and may not say to him, "Be informed that so and so has come from such and such a place." The following transgress a negative commandment: the lender, the borrower, the guarantor, and the witnesses. And the sages say, even the scribe, they transgress: "You shall not give, you shall not take from him. You shall not be to him as a creditor, and you shall not impose interest upon him. And before a blind man you shall not place a stumbling block, and you shall fear God. I am Hashem. Okay.
One more for you.
If one hires craftsmen and they mislead one another, they have nothing but resentment against one another. If he hired a donkey driver or a wagoner to bring wood for a litter, or flutes for a bride, or for a dead person, or laborers to remove his flack from the steeping water, or anything which may cause a loss, and they retracted in a place where there are no people, he may hire other workers in addition to them or trick them. Okay.
Okay. So here's the so we just did the case um, where the workers changed the terms on the employer, and we go into a more general case now from that Mishnah base. So if a person hired laborers and midway through the day they decided they wanted to quit, now they're always allowed to quit. You can't force someone into to work if he doesn't want to, but there's a penalty involved. Okay, which is yadan ala tachtona. Okay, what does it mean, yadan ala tachtona? Which means that if the balabais now has to hire more expensive workers to take their place, then they're going to lose whatever the more expensive workers are going to charge from the money that they've already earned. Okay, and if the price of the labor has dropped, then they can't say, "Listen, we agreed a certain price, just subtract whatever you had to pay to those workers and give us the rest of the work that you did." No, well, he only has to pay them what they did at their price, and then he pays the cheaper laborers less. Okay. And the same thing goes in Balabais Chosebo. If he decides that he doesn't want them anymore and he wants to fire them midway through the day, then he is the one who has to lose out, right? Has if the price of labor has gone up, then he has to then he has to pay. If he hired other workers or whatever, even if he can't claim that, no, I had to pay other workers to come in and do this, and therefore I'm taking it off you. He can't do that. He has to pay them what he agreed to pay, and if the price of labor has gone down, he still has to pay the first guys the original amount that he agreed with them. Okay. Yadola tachtana. Kol hamshane yadola tachtana. Anyone who changes the terms, anyone who changes the terms of the agreement, he is at the disadvantage. The and anyone who retracts from a deal, he is at the disadvantage. So the two different situations. There's one who changes the terms. The Gemara explains is for example, somebody who gives wool to the dyer and to dye it red, and he dyed it black. Okay, so remember we saw that he has to pay the lesser of his expenses, or the value added, or the amount that was stipulated. So the smallest amount of that lottie is what the customer has to pay. And if somebody backs out of a deal, then he has the disadvantage. For example, if somebody sells his fields for 1,000 zuz, and he gave his friend and his friend gave him 500 zuz, and now the seller wants to back out of it, the purchaser can say, "Listen, give me my money. Or if he wants, he can say, give me half the land because I've paid you half the money, so give me half the land. So because money is kone with karka. So now the buyer has the advantage here. But if it's the other way around, that if the buyer wants to retract after handing over the money, then the seller can say he can have the choice of whether it wants to give him the money or if he wants to give him the land. Okay. Just want to turn on my fan. It's kind of hot in here.
Hey, come in, stop crying.
Okay, so a renter comes. He comes to a donkey rental company and says, "I would like to rent a Category C donkey, please." What's a Category C donkey? That's a donkey that's intended for mountain work. Okay, and he took it in the valley instead. So instead of taking the donkey into the mountain, he took it into the valley. But Beka, or he rented a Category B donkey, which is for working in the valleys, Bahar, and instead it was he took it into the mountains. Afilu zo aseres million v'zo aseres million. Even if the distance that you've got your daily kilometerage, mileage that you're allowed to use the donkey, and it's the same distance. The mesa, but the donkey died. Chayav, right? He's the renter is chayav for this. Why? Because it was an unapproved usage of the donkey. It was not meant to be used in circumstances that were put in the wrong place. So hold on. I think this is specifically the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Let me just see. Here's the Palachamor. Right. So the renter, at least the owner of the donkey, can say to the renter, this donkey didn't just die on its own; it died because you used it in the wrong place, and therefore he's have to pay for the damage to the donkey.
And if he did the right thing and put one in the valley, the valley, one in the valley.
So if the donkey just died during the rental, and he was using it according to the specified usage, then the owner has to take the loss, and he has to provide a new donkey to the renter, because that's called an ones if the donkey died just in normal usage. Okay. Hasocher es hachamor v'hivrika. Okay, so he rented the donkey and it went blind. Hivrika is actually like Mavrik is bright, so it's euphemistic language. Lashon sagi nahor. So they say a person of bountiful light is a blind person. Okay, Oshe nases Angaria, or it was confiscated by the local authorities. That he was riding his rental donkey, and the local authorities came and said, "Hey, that's a good donkey," and it was basically he was bullied off it. Okay, so now the owner of the donkey can say to the renter, if the renter comes back and says, "Listen, the donkey went blind, or the donkey was taken by the authorities. I need a new donkey," and so the owner can say, "Harei shelach lefanecha." The donkey. So why is it my fault? You've still got your donkey. It's a functioning donkey. Just because it's blind, it doesn't mean it can't work. So just take a little extra care. All you need it for is to carry stuff. So just take extra care that it knows where to walk. Or if it's the confiscation story, then he'll say it's your problem. I wasn't the one who marched the donkey in front of the king's tax collectors. It's not my problem. It's your problem. Okay. Now this is on the other hand, Mesa or Nishbara, if the donkey actually died or broke a limb in the course of usual usage, then the owner has to swap out the donkey for a working model. Okay, the difference between the blind one and the dead one is that the blind one can still more or less work. Okay, but if it's carrying a load that is fragile, then he would still also have to provide a new donkey, because if a blind donkey could stumble and drop the load, in which case it's going to cause damage, so that then it can't actually do the work that it was supposed to do. Okay. Okay, so once again, we come to the case of the guy who rents the donkey in order to take it in the mountain, and he took it into the valley. If the donkey slipped in the valley and caused and was damaged, then he's pater. Why? Because if a donkey is so unsure-footed that it would slip even in the valley, then certainly it would have also slipped in the mountain. And the renter took it on the condition that he could take it into the mountain. Therefore, he doesn't have to pay for this. It's not his fault. Okay. But if the donkey became ill from the heat, then he is chayav, because now he made the conditions worse for the donkey in terms of heat. The mountains are cooler, so maybe this donkey was specifically rented to him because it couldn't take the heat. And since he changed it, now he's chayav for the damage to the donkey. Or conversely, he rented a valley grade donkey, and he took it into the mountains. If it slipped, then he's chayav, right? Because this was a donkey that wasn't meant to be in the mountains, and it slipped and got damaged. Now he's chayav for it. But if it got overheated during the mountains, in the mountains, then he's pater, because it would have certainly gotten overheated in the valley as well. But if it was because of the altitude, because it got overheated because it was working so hard to climb the steep slopes, then he is chayav, because nonetheless the change that he did in the contract was to make things worse for the donkey, and therefore the renter would be chayav.
There's something called a coulter, Colter, because coulter breaks. Is that like we put on a horse, like reins, or?
I think the coulter, that's in Mishna Daled, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry,
okay. Yeah. So that'll be in the next Mishnah. That's the coulter. It's I think it's part of the plow.
That's what I thought. Something that goes on the thing and
Yeah.
okay. I just went a little bit ahead. That's what
Yeah. Okay. No problem. Okay. To Daled. Hasocher es apara. He rents a cow lachrosh bahar in order to plow in the hills. V'charash b'bika, and instead he plowed in the valley. Okay, im nishbar kankan. So if the coulter breaks, thanks for the word. Im nishbar kankan pater, then for sure he's pater for that, because the hilly ground is much harder than the valley, and if it broke in the valley, kal v'chomer, it would have broken in the hills. Okay, but bika v'charash bahar. But if it's the other way around, he rented it for the valley, but he plowed it in the hills. Now he's made a change for the worse, and therefore he's chayav. Ladush b'kitnis, if he hired it to thresh in legumes, b'dash b'tvua, and instead he used it for threshing grain, and it slipped. Pater. Okay, he's pater because legumes are more slippery than grain. So therefore, if it slipped even in grain, then it certainly would have slipped in the legumes. And so he made a change for the worse. He was supposed to use it only for grain. It slipped while he was doing the legumes, and therefore it's his fault because he changed the conditions for the worse. Okay. Perik Daled.
Daled. Gold acquires silver, but silver does not acquire gold. Copper acquires silver, but silver does not acquire copper. Disqualified coins acquire current ones, but current ones do not acquire disqualified ones. Unstamped metal acquires coins, but coins do not acquire unstamped metal. Movables acquire coins, but coins do not acquire movables. And this is the rule that all movables acquire each other. How? If he took produce from him, but he did not give him money, he cannot retract. If he gave him money but did not take the produce from him, he can retract. They said, however, he who retracted retribution from the people of the generation of the flood and from the generation of the dispersion will exact retribution from one who does not abide by his spoken word. Reb Shimon says whoever has the money in his possession has the upper hand. The amount that constitutes fraud is 4 silver miles out of his 24 silver miles, which are equivalent to a seller, a sixth of the purchase. Until when can one revoke the sale? Until he is able to show the item to a merchant or to his relative. Reb Tarfon ruled in Lod, the amount that constitutes fraud is 8 silver miles out of a seller, a third of the purchase. And the merchants of Lod rejoiced. He said to them, for a whole day one may revoke the sale. They said to him, let Reb Tarfon leave us alone in our place, and they went back to the words of the Chachamim.
Okay. All right. Bava Kama Gimel Yud Aleph.
If one bull was chasing another bull and it was injured, and this one says, your bull injured it, and that one says, not so, it hurt itself on a rock, the burden of proof lies on the one who seeks to exact something from the other. If two were chasing one, this one says, your bull injured it, and that one says, your bull injured it. Both are exempt. If both belong to one man, both are liable. If one was large and one small, and the Adamiji says, not so, the small one injured it. Or if one was a Tom and one was a Muad, and the Damagee says, the Muad injured it, and the Damager says, not so, the Tom injured it. The burden of proof lies on the one who seeks to exact something from the other. If the injured one were two, the one large and one small, and the Damagee were two, one large and one small, and the Damagee says, the one large one injured the large one, and the small one injured the small one. And the Damager says, not so. The small one injured the large one, and the large one injured the small one, and the large one, the small one. Or if one was a Tom and one was a Muad, and the Damager says, the Muad injured the large one, and the Tom the small one. And the Damager says, not so. The Tom injured the large one, and the Muad the small one. The burden of proof relies on the one who seeks to exact retribution something from the other. If a bull guards 4 or 5 bulls, one after the other, its owner shall pay the last of them. If there is an excess in it, he shall return to the one return it to the one before him. If there is an excess in it, he shall return it to the one before that one. The later the injury, the more the advantage. These are the words of Reb Meir. Reb Shimon says if a bull worth 200 gores, a bull worth 200, and the carcass is worth nothing, this one takes a mana and this one takes a mana. If it goes and gores another bull worth 200, the last one takes 100, and as for those preceding him, this one takes 100, and as for those preceding him, this one takes 50 zuz, and this one takes 50 zuz. And if it goes and gores another bull worth 200, and the last one takes a mana, the one before him, 50 zuz, and the first two, a golden dinner. Okay.
One more.
If a bull is a muad toward its kind, but not a muad toward those not of its kind, a muad toward man, but not a muad toward beast, or a muad toward small ones, but not a muad toward large ones, or for those toward which it is muad, the owner pays a full damages. For those toward which it is not a muad, he pays half the damages. That said before Rabbi Yehuda, what if it was a muad for Sabbaths, and not a muad for the weekdays? He said to them, for Sabbaths, he pays the full damages, and for weekdays, he pays half the damages. When does it become a tam? When it refrains from 3 Sabbath days.
Okay.
This is like this.
Okay, Nadarim, last Mishna.
Okay. Wait a second. Okay. Go. We have Keskimo.
No, we're Nadarim first.
I just moved them around.
Nadarim and Nazir.
Yad Yud base. Yud
Yep.
Aleph base. At first, they used to say there are 3 women who must be divorced. Yet they take their ketubah. One who says, I am unclean to you, or heaven is between me and you, or I am removed from all Jews. They later retracted this, and so that a wife should not set her eyes upon another man and behave immorally toward her husband. Rather, one who says, I am unclean to you must prove it. Heaven is between me and you, and they should plead with her. I am removed from all Jews. He should revoke his share so that she can continue in marital relations with him, but she is removed from other Jews.
Hadjonalach Maseches Nadarim. Okay, Nazir.
Yeah. Okay. All equivalent terms used in Nazaris are like Naziris. One who says "I will be" is a Nazir, or "I will be handsome" is a Nazir. Nazik, Nazigak, and Paziak, he is a Nazir. One who says, "I am like this one, I am to stroke my hair, I am to let my hair grow. It is an obligation upon me to let my hair grow long," he is a Nazir. If he says, "It is an obligation upon me to offer birds," Rameya says he is a Nazir, but the Kohen say he's not a Nazir. One who says, "I am a Nazir from grape seeds, or from grape skins, or from haircuts, or from Tuma," he is a Nazir. And all the details of Nazirus apply to him. One who says, "I am like Shimshon, like the son of Maniok, like the husband of Delilah, like him who tore out the gates of Gaza, like him who the Philistines gorged out his eyes," he is Samansion Nazir. What is the difference between a permanent Nazir and Samsonian Nazir? A permanent Nazir, if his hair grows heavy, he may lighten it with a razor and bring 3 animals. And if he brings, and it becomes Tameh, he brings the sacrifice for Tumah. And Samsonian Nazir, if his hair grows heavy, he may not lighten it, and it becomes Tameh. And if he does not bring the sacrifice, he does not bring the sacrifice for Tumah.
Right. Okay, Pesachim.
Okay, Chet Gimel. If one says to his sons, "I will slaughter the Pesach for the first among you to reach Jerusalem," then as soon as the first one has put his head and the greater part of his body inside, he has acquired his portion, and he acquires his brother's portions for them. We may always be registered for it as long as there is at least an olive's volume for each one. They may be registered or withdrew from it until it is slaughtered. Reb Shimon says until the blood is thrown from it. If one registers others upon his portion, then the members of the company have permitted to give him his portion, and he eats his, and they eat theirs. A Zav who experienced 2 discharges, they may slaughter on his behalf on the 7th day. If he experienced 3, they may slaughter on his behalf on the 8th day. A woman who observes a day against a day, they may slaughter on her behalf on her 2nd day. If she experienced discharges for 2 days, they may slaughter on her behalf before the 3rd day. And the Zava, they may slaughter on her behalf on the 8th day.
Right, so that last Mishnah is just talking about the question of like, okay, this person is due to go to mikveh tonight. They're tamei now when they're shechting the Pesach, but tonight they're due to become tahor and go to mikveh, and then they'll be able to eat the korban Pesach. So we allow them to be part of the chabura, and they can be, and we can shecht on their behalf under the assumption that they will become tamei. They will become tahor that night.
Okay. Gimel Dalet.
Yeah.
Regarding one who sprinkles his house with water and then placed wheat there, and the wheat was moistened, if it is due to the water, it is included in the law of the water is placed. But if it is due to the bedrock, and it is not included in the law of the water is placed. Regarding one who washes his garment in a basin, and then he placed wheat there, and then this wheat was moistened, if it is due to the water, it was included in the law of the water is placed. But if it is due to the kernels of wheat themselves, it is not included in the law of water is placed. Regarding one who moistens produce in sand, it is included in the law if water is placed. And there was an incident with the people of Machos who would moisten produce in sand. And the sages said to them, "If this is what you have been doing, then you have never in your life produced flour in Tahara." Regarding one who moistens produce in dry mud, Reb Shimon says if it contains liquid sufficient to moisten, it is included in the law of water is placed. But if not, it is not included in the law of water is placed. Regarding one who sprinkles his silo with water, he need not be concerned that perhaps he put wheat there and it was moistened. Regarding one who gathers blades of grass when his dew is upon them, in order to moisten wheat with them, they are not included in the water is placed. In the law of this water is placed. But he intended this is included in the law of water is placed. Regarding one who transport wheat to grinder and rain fell on it, if he is happy, he is included in the law of water is placed. Yehuda says it is impossible not to be happy, rather only if he stood still. If his olives were put on the roof and rain fell on them, if he is happy, it's included in the law of water is placed. Yehuda says it is impossible not to be happy, rather only if he blocks the drain pipe and he rolled the olives about in the water.
Okay.
And we have Arachim. Dalet Aleph. The ability to pay depends on the vower. The age category upon the subject of the vow. The Arachim upon the subject of the Eric, and the Eric upon the time of the Eric. The ability to pay depends upon the vower. How so? A poor man who vowed the erek of a rich man gives the erek of a poor man, and a rich man who vowed the erek of a poor man gives the erek of a rich man. But with sacrificial offering, it is not so. Should one say, I have taken myself to give the offering of this Metzora, and if the Metzora was poor, he brings the offering of a poor man. If he was sick, he brings the offering of a rich man. Rebbe says, I say that even in the case of a Rakan, it is so. But why is it that a poor man who vowed the erek of a rich man gives the erek of a poor man? Because the rich man is not at all obligated. But if the rich man said, I take upon myself to give my erek, and the poor man overheard him and said, I take upon myself to give what this man said, and he gives the erek of a rich man. If he was poor and became rich, or he was rich and became poor, he gives the erek of a rich man. Now Yehuda says, even a poor man who became rich and then became poor again gives the erek of a rich man. But with the sacrificial offerings, it is not so. Even if his father died and left him 10,000 zuz, or his ship was at sea, and they came with tens of thousands, the temple treasury has no claim on them.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Get out of here.
Shkoyach.
I feel better. Keep going. Everything should be good. See you.
See you Metzia Hashem tomorrow.
Anything special tomorrow, Jim, or anything?
Nah, I've got gym today, actually. It was pushed over from yesterday. Okay. See ya.
Thanks, bye.